Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. So I'm going to be making a little bit of a different video today. I'm going to be talking about some of my favourite travel books. Now these aren't like your typical like travel books, you could say. They're not like how to travel or how to backpack or travel tips or anything like that. They're books that really inspire you to travel or inspire you to go on an adventure, and they just make you feel so much wanderlust, and they just make you want to get out and see the world and do so many different things. If you're watching this in the future, this is currently the time when we've been in lockdown for about 2 months and we're going through this pandemic, and we don't know when we're going to be able to travel again, unfortunately. But I've been wanting to film this video for a long time anyway, but I think obviously at the moment, whilst we're all in lockdown and we can't go out and do much, it's probably a really good time to start reading some really good books. If you're going through lockdown, hopefully these will get you through lockdown and make you feel like you're going on an adventure in your imagination. So anyway, let's get on with the first book. The first one is The Island by Victoria Hislop. So Greece has an island called Crete, and I think it's one of Greece's biggest islands. It looks like it is on the map. And I've always wanted to go there actually before I read this book anyway. There's actually a little tiny island that's off the coast of Crete. Back in the day, they actually used to send people who got leprosy to this island, and it was a leper colony. So only people who had leprosy were allowed on the island. So it was actually really a horrible thing. Pretty much once you get leprosy, you deteriorate quite badly, and there was no cure back then. And a lot of horrible things happened to these people. That actually happened. That was an actual real thing. But this book is obviously like a fictional story that goes along with it. So it's about a girl who goes back to Crete and travels around and learns all about it. And it switches back and forth from when her mother was there when it was happening to like when she's there now. So it also touches on a few other different things within the story. It's not always about the leper colony, and it talks about different parts of Crete and people traveling around Crete and different storylines that go along with it. And the whole time I was reading this, I was just hooked. I think I read it really quickly. It's obviously not like the nicest thing, and it's not like a nice, inspiring, adventurous travel book, because it is a little bit sad what happens. It does sort of inspire you to go to Crete and learn about the history there and what happened. And the second book is this one here. I think this has just only recently come out actually. It's The Salt Path by Rain and Win. I was drawn to it because it's about the West Coast path in England, and it had really good reviews, and I just really love the cover. I do actually judge a book by its cover, like I just like nice pretty covers. So I'm just going to read the blurb. Just days after Rain and Win learned that Moth, her husband of 32 years, was terminally ill, they lost their home and their livelihood. With nothing left and little time, they impulsively decided to walk 630 miles south West Coast path from Somerset to Dorset via Devon and Cornwall. Living wild and free at the mercy of the sea and the sky, they discovered a new liberating existence. But what would they find at journey's end? So you would think a book about people walking along a path wouldn't be a very interesting book, but it was actually so good. And I think it just depends on how people write things. So this is a true story, and they were literally just walking along this path for months and months and months, just wild camping. So it goes through sort of all the different things that she thinks about and what they go through. And her husband was terminally ill. It's him being ill and her coping with that, him coping with that, and like what they go through. So this is probably one of the most inspiring books I've ever read. Like just what they go through and like where they end up at the end is just, it's just so inspiring. Okay, the third one is The Stationery Shop of Tehran by Marjan Kamali. I feel like it inspires me because it's about a country that I don't know a lot about, and it's quite a misunderstood country. So it's a fictional story, but it's based in Tehran. So I'm not going to read the blurb on this one because I feel like you can go online and read blurb. So it's set in 1950s Tehran, and it's about this young girl who meets a boy, and it sort of talks about different things that happened at that time in Iran. So I really liked it because I felt like I learnt a lot more about that country and what it was like back then, because those events that happened were real events. So yeah, even though it's not necessarily like a travel book, I just found it really good to read and to learn about those things. And I like reading about countries that I don't know a lot about, even if the story was fictional. Obviously I know that you can just go online and read the blurb, so yeah, I don't want to be like drumming on about the blurb and what it's about when you can go online and find that. But obviously I'm here to just let you know my thoughts on the books and suggest them to you. I'll link them all below as well on Amazon. So the next one is Lone Rider by Esplith Beard. Now this book, oh my god, along with this one, this was so freaking inspiring. It's a similar sort of thing because they're like a journey across land. sort of books. This is about a woman from England who, back in the 80s, when she was only like 24, rode her motorbike around the world by herself. Like, what? She rode through America and then she'd ship her bike to Australia, rode all through Australia, so from Sydney to Perth, and then she shipped her bike to, where would it be? Bali, I think, or somewhere in Indonesia, and then she rode all the way up through Thailand, across to India, went through Pakistan, Iran, and then across to Europe, and by herself in the 80s, when she was 24, like younger than I am. Isn't that just, and it's just so inspiring. And the book was just, some of the things that she went through and she saw, and some of the things that happened, like, I was just like, oh my god, how can this be real life? Like, you would just give up so quickly. And I just think it's such a, like, inspiring, like, girl power. Imagine someone doing that nowadays, let alone in the 80s. This is like life-changing, this book. Like, this makes me want to get out and go on an adventure and like take on the world. If you're feeling worried about going solo traveling, this would be a great book to read, because it really does make you just want to get out and do things, because you think, if she can do it, then I can, you know? Yeah, so I feel like nowadays I'm really gravitating towards books that are more about adventure and travel and all sorts of things. Like I said, they're not necessarily like travel book. If I go on Amazon and I search travel, these sort of books don't really come up. It's kind of annoying. I like reading about books about different countries and adventures, and or books that will just educate me. Like, there's this other one. Okay, I'm just going to quickly mention this. This little book was great as well. So yeah, I've just been really into books that educate me a bit more about the world. Okay, the next one is Shantaram. Or Shantaram? I don't know. I got this book because I was going to India. And I feel like everyone who's going to India reads this book, or has read this book, or every backpacker has read this. It's based in Mumbai, and I was going to Mumbai, so I bought it for India, and then I realised how thick and heavy it was, so I didn't take it with me. But I'm kind of glad I did, because it's the sort of book that you really have to like pay attention while you're reading it, because the words are actually tiny, and I didn't feel like I got enough time to properly read in India. This book is a journey. Like, the amount of things he went through, I just couldn't believe this was real. Like, it was so crazy. This is a true story. So it's about an Aussie guy that escapes prison in the 80s in Australia, and he flees to India, and he ends up working in the slums in India, and he ends up joining the mafia in India, and he ends up going to war in Afghanistan. I think it's over 10 years. It might seem like in the book there's things happening one after another, but I realized it was over 10 years. I mean, I just couldn't even believe this man's still alive. The amount of stuff that he went through. You have to read this book, even if you're not going to India. Like, it was such a good book. So don't let this many pages overwhelm you. It's about 900 pages or so. And I feel like you learn a lot about the culture in India through this book. And the last book I'll mention, I don't have it with me because I read it years ago, but I'll put it on the screen now. It's Wild by Cheryl Strayed, and it's a book about a woman who goes walking, I don't know what path it's called, it's in California, and it's like a 3-month-long walking path through all the forests and mountains and everything in California. And there's a movie about it, so a lot of people know about it. It's got Reese Witherspoon in it. And the movie's actually really good as well. I really love the movie. But that's a really inspiring book as well. You can sort of tell that it'd be good if there's been a movie made about it. And yeah, it's sort of one of those books, it's almost a bit like with this book, how you wouldn't think it'd be that interesting, because it's about just someone going for a walk. But I think just the things that people go through when they're on their own, or, you know, obviously they're in a couple, but when you're on your own and you're doing something for yourself and you're just walking, you've got so much time to think about things, and you obviously have to confront different things and like have different challenges if you're on your own in the bush or, you know, in the forest. I think obviously the ones that I'm inspired by the most are women who are on their own, going out and doing these scary things. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed watching this video. I hope I haven't rambled on too much, and I hope I've expressed myself and explained myself. I guess you don't even have to watch this video, you could just go down below and buy the books. So yeah, make sure you go below and buy one of these books, because I feel like it's a great time to start reading and getting into reading a lot of stories, especially about travel, if you want to travel after this is all over. Even if you're watching this in the future and lockdown's all over and we're back to normal and you can travel, these are obviously really great books to read if you love traveling and going on adventures. So make sure you subscribe if you enjoyed watching this video. Make sure you comment below if you have any other suggestions of like travel books or adventurous books that you really enjoyed reading, or if you read any of these books and you have some opinions on them. I'd like to hear what you have to say, and I'll see you guys soon. Bye!